Today we make fluffy honey butter rolls. But first, coffee. So today we're going to be making some honey butter rolls. They are super fluffy. They are one of my favorites recently because you can use them as just a dinner roll. You can use them as hamburger buns, sandwich buns. They have just become an all-time favorite. This is not my recipe. This is actually a recipe that I found on Facebook, and her name is Lucy Makes. And so I have, though, changed the recipe a little bit to fit my needs, but it is her recipe and we're going to make it today. So you'll notice here some of the things I have in order for us to get started on our honey butter rolls. It calls for regular old flour. I am going to actually grind or mill my own flour today. So this is organic hard red wheat berries. You need honey. You will need measuring for some salt. You need a kitchen scale. It is imperative to have a kitchen scale for this. Some yeast and a couple of bowls. And then back here, I do have my mixer, which we will get into here in a second. So the first thing we are going to do is, it calls for 856 grams. I should probably check that. So I was wrong. It calls for 840 grams of flour. So what I'm going to do, because I actually have never checked to see if it's, well, that was not my best. I have to turn this thing on. Okay. And then zero it out. So let's just see. Let's, if it's gram for gram. solid 2 ground wheat berries. Yep. Good enough. So hopefully you guys can see. It says 841. We're going to go with that close enough. So this is my Nutri-Mill grain mill. That is the top, and then it comes out the spout there. So we're going to turn it on, and you pour the So one of my most favorite things about this recipe is that it's a 1 bowl recipe. I'm making it way more complicated because I'm trying to film and show you guys, but all you need is your mixing bowl for your mixer, electric mixer, and that's it. And my mixer is an Anka. I just got it probably, I guess it's been about 4 months now. And I love this thing. And so we are going to use it today to make these rolls, but I have done this in a KitchenAid and it works just as well. So the first thing you want to do is you want to turn your scale back on. You're going to put your mixing bowl on there and zero it out. Remember, we're using grams. I have milled my flour, and so we're going to go with 840 grams of flour. And again, just use regular all-purpose flour. I'm just using fresh milled because I just recently got into fresh milled flour and I'm really enjoying it, but definitely just use fresh milled. Okay, so before I milled it, it was 841 grams, and now it is 830, well, I just touched it, 837 grams. So it's almost like for like. That's good to know because honestly, the fact that you're grinding it and putting air into it, I kind of thought it was going to be different. So I'm going to get a little bit more flour and get my exactly 840 grams, and then we'll move on. So I've got the rest of my flour and I added a little too much. That's okay. Totally fine. So now we're going to add our water, our honey, yeast, and salt. And oh, and I'm sorry, it does take 2 eggs also. I failed to say that before. Okay, so the next thing, you want to zero out your scale. And now the recipe calls for 395 grams of water, which this is besides me milling my own flour, which is one of the first significant changes because the flour acts so differently. This is my next significant change. So I have noticed that this, if I follow this recipe per her instructions, it never turns out. I have to kind of play around with it and figure out. So it calls for 395 grams of water. So we'll start with that. But what I have noticed is that it takes quite a bit more. So, oh, almost lost my bowl. So I am actually going to start, and we'll see. I'm going to actually start with 430 grams of water. And there's just, oh, I keep touching the bowl, which changes the weight. So there's my 430 grams of water. And now we're going to put in, again, zero out your scale. It's going to take 18 grams of yeast. Now, I do keep the yeast exactly per her recipe. I ended up with 18.6 grams. That's totally fine. 2 large eggs. Okay. It then calls for 105 grams of honey or sugar. Now, I try not to use a ton of refined sugar if possible. So I am going to use the honey today. I have made this with maple syrup, like pure maple syrup, and it works wonderful also. Let's see if I can. Okay, so 105 grams of honey. Oh, well, I just went to 114. That's fine. I have gone over and it does not seem to matter. Then it calls for 2.5. Now we're into using our actual teaspoons and tablespoons. Calls for 2.5 teaspoons of salt. I just use pink Himalayan salt. So there is 1, 2, and 3, or 2.5, not 3. Okay. The other thing it does call for, but you do not add it yet, is it calls for 56 grams of softened butter. So we will get that out. But the next thing we're going to do is we are just going to mix this. This is my Anka Shroom mixer, and we're going to get this set up. I've just got the bowl here, and we're going to get it set up and get it mixing. This is the roller. Put the pin in, and you just tighten the knob. This is the bowl scraper. It just sits right in there. And we're going to turn it on. Turn that down. So I've only had this on about 60 seconds, and I can tell just by looking at it that even though we added significantly more water, there is still, it's so dry. So we're gonna go ahead and add some more water. So just start slowly adding in some water. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it up a little. At this point, you want to let your dough knead on medium-high for approximately 10 minutes. So we're just going to let it knead and then we'll come back to it. So this is where now we want to go ahead and add our 56 grams of room temperature butter. And guys, it is not going to want to like mix in very well. You kind of have to, or like make it. I'll turn it up. Hold in. We're just gonna so you can see now that the butter has pretty much mixed in. I'm going to give it another probably 2 minutes, just kind of kneading like this. So we're probably overall between the initial kneading and then after butter, it's probably 12 to 15 minutes, okay? The directions say that it should be close to window pane stage. I have to say I've never gotten to window pane stage making these rolls, but they seem to turn out, so I'm going with that. So apparently with window pane, and again, I have never really gotten there, but let me wet my fingers. I always forget to do that part. That helps. So you grab a little piece of your dough and you just spread it out. Again, and it's supposed to be like you can see through it before it breaks. I don't know. I've never gotten there, especially with this dough, but it looks kind of close. I don't know. So anyway, at this point, put a towel on it. I'm going to put it in my oven with the light on because my house is cold. It's 64 in here right now. So I'm going to put a towel on it and it's going to double in size for 1.5 to 2 hours. Remember, oven's not on, just the light bulb. It's enough to get it warm in there. And we'll check it in 1.5 to 2 hours, see if it's double its size. It's 12:30 now, so we'll check it at 2. Yes, 2. Okay, so I took the dough out of the oven. It has been 1.5 hours and it has doubled in size. So per the instructions, you can do a couple of different things. There's different amounts of rolls per weight of each roll. Like you can do 24 rolls, but I like to do the extra large rolls, which you get about 15 extra large rolls at 105 grams a piece. And that to me is perfect because it's the perfect hamburger bun, perfect for sandwiches. So that's what we're going to do today. So let's weigh them out. You do need your scale for this, and you need a cookie sheet with parchment liner on it. I have done it without the parchment and it just sticks a little bit. This just makes it a little bit easier. So here is where I'm weighing out the 105 grams of dough per roll. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it should be pretty close. You can go anywhere from a little bit under to a little bit over. The way that I actually form the rolls is to take the outside and pull in and turn the dough around in a circle until the part that is on your palm is formed a tight roll. Now I have made the rolls. You saw me weigh them out, and I'm just setting them back in my oven. The oven is off with the light on, and we are going to leave them in there until they rise, double in size, about another hour, hour and a half. Okay, so I took the rolls out of the oven. They had been in the oven rising, remember, with just the light on in the oven. The oven was not on or anything like that. It's been about an hour. Look at these beauties. So at this point, we're going to do an egg wash on them. We're going to take one egg and about a tablespoon or so of milk. It can be almond milk, coconut milk, soy milk, whole, doesn't matter. If you have heavy cream, half and half, just whatever. Just so about 2 tablespoons of your choice of milk, 1 egg, and we are going to brush the top of the rolls before we put them in. Again, 375 is the temperature on the oven, and we will bake them about 20 minutes until they're nice and golden brown. I do use my convection bake setting on my oven, but I have done it without, and it works just as well. So whatever you have, it's going to work, okay? After applying the egg wash, this is where you could absolutely add some toppings to the top of the rolls. You could sprinkle the tops with some flaky salt or poppy seeds, sesame seeds, some sunflower seeds, some type of nut. It would be amazing on top, but this would be the point after the egg wash that you would want to do that before it goes in the oven. one. Oh, look at that. Honestly, you see the steam? Look at that beautiful crumb. Okay, now let's take Pretty sure there's nothing better than having tea, lighting your candle, and having a sink full of clean dishes.